We've come to Buckingham Palace in highly unusual circumstances. Normally, we'd be discussing your work, your duty.
Tears streamed down Prince Andrew's face as a long-buried royal secret was finally exposed. A palace insider has stepped forward with jaw-dropping revelations that shake everything we thought we knew about his lineage. The whispers, hidden files, and decades-long cover-ups have ignited a storm that the palace has never seen before. Rumours of secret documents, concealed truths, and royal manipulations have sparked chaos behind Buckingham Palace walls. Could this finally explain the tension, cold stares, and unspoken distance that haunted the family for decades?
And you profusely sweating, and that she went on to have bath, possibly.
There's a slight problem with the sweating.
The truth is far more personal and far more painful than anyone imagined. Let's dive deep into this story, uncover what happened, and reveal the bombshell that changed everything forever. On the surface, the day appeared ordinary. The sun shone across the palace gardens, birds chirped in the distance, and a gentle breeze floated through the windows. But inside, a secret of historic magnitude had just surfaced. The royal family, and even the Queen herself, was left reeling when a letter arrived that exposed a crack in the supposedly unshakable royal line. At first glance, the envelope seemed ordinary, almost mundane, but inside was a revelation that would change everything. Prince Philip, upon reading it, immediately sensed a subtle but powerful shift in the palace atmosphere. Only those bound by royal blood could feel the weight of this moment. The cause of this storm, a DNA test report that revealed the unimaginable. Prince Andrew was not Philip's biological son. This wasn't just about paternity. It was a threat to the sanctity of the royal bloodline, a matter of preserving a lineage considered sacred, untouchable, and centuries in the making. For generations, royal custodians had ensured the bloodline remained pure. Now the shocking truth had emerged. One of their own wasn't truly one of their own. Why Prince Philip ordered the test remains unknown, and what planted the seeds of doubt in his mind is still a mystery. Palace sources confirm the test was conducted entirely in secret, away from the public eye and even most palace staff. Almost everyone was kept in the dark. Only a handful of trusted aides were aware, all sworn to absolute silence. Prince Philip didn't share the results with even his closest confidants, but whispers inside the palace began to grow, and soon the secret became undeniable. Philip wasn't seeking scandal or public sympathy. His only concern was safeguarding the crown. The results were devastating. Prince Andrew was not Philip's son. A palace insider described Philip's reaction, frozen in disbelief, eyes scanning the paper repeatedly, hands clutching it tightly, as if rereading could somehow change the truth. But it never did. Andrew was not his biological child. Philip exhaled slowly, squeezing his eyes shut, as if trying to unsee what he had discovered. Outside, the sun shone as usual, birds continued to sing, and life in the palace carried on. But to Philip, the world had gone grey. The seeds of doubt had blossomed into a painful and undeniable reality. Sources confirm a tense confrontation, multiple cover-ups, and even a second DNA test to verify the first. The results, the same. Andrew was not Philip's biological son. The results were never made public. They were buried under layers of secrecy, protocol, and royal discretion, hidden away in the archives. A revelation like this could have rewritten the line of succession, shaken the monarchy, and altered power forever. But decades later, leaks and recovered files have surfaced, leaving the world shocked. This story isn't just Andrew's, it's about identity, power, and the delicate balance of the British monarchy. For Prince Andrew, the revelation was a devastating crisis of identity. In the monarchy, blood determines titles, privileges, succession, and the right to wield power. But what happens when someone raised as a royal turns out to carry different blood? How do they fit in? And what does it mean for their role in the palace and the public eye? These questions haunted him constantly. Prince Philip faced a brutal dilemma: confront the Queen while protecting the crown. A palace insider says this DNA revelation caused one of the longest, tensest rifts in their marriage. Their confrontation was quiet, almost unseen, but charged with emotion in the Queen's private quarters at Windsor. Philip's face was clouded with purpose. His tone was calm, but his words carried hurt and frustration. The Queen listened attentively, saying nothing, allowing him to pour out his heart. He didn't demand answers. The truth confirmed his worst suspicions. While he had been a father figure to all his children, his connection to Andrew had always been different. Andrew had always seemed different, not just in personality, but in looks. The Queen said nothing, letting Philip speak. His worry, even in anger, centred on protecting the crown. He insisted this secret must never be revealed, and the Queen agreed, not out of fear, but to safeguard public faith in the monarchy. From that day forward, a web of secrecy was spun. The DNA results were locked away in the royal archives, never to see the light of day. Publicly, the matter disappeared. Philip and the Queen slowly repaired their relationship, but his bond with Andrew had shifted. He was never cruel, but he became emotionally distant. Family members noticed Andrew falling out of favour with his father, a cold distance replacing warmth in their interactions. The Queen faced a cruel choice. Her duty as sovereign demanded protection of the crown, but as a mother, she could not explain why Andrew's father's behaviour had changed. Many say she kept Andrew close because she knew his life would be different from her siblings, wanting to shield him from the harsh consequences of royal truth. Some suggest Andrew's behaviour and choices, including involvement in scandalous circles, were influenced by this distance. Feeling left out, he sought attention in dangerous ways, making decisions that would haunt him for years. But it wasn't until his late 20s that Andrew uncovered the truth, and the shock left him breathless, overcome with grief. His discovery happened while retrieving documents from the royal archives. He stumbled on the DNA test envelope and froze. A royal archivist confirmed Andrew left the building pale as a ghost, silently driving back to Royal Lodge, mind spinning with disbelief and heartbreak.
You've been to stay on his private island.
Yes.
You've stayed at his home in Palm Beach.
Yes.
There, he finally broke down. The cold stares, awkward hugs, and emotional distance from his father all made sense. He wanted to scream, but didn't know who to blame. Eventually, numbness settled like a heavy weight in his chest. That evening, he returned to his vehicle and drove straight to the palace. Upon arrival, he went directly to his mother's study. The Queen was about to retire when Andrew entered, looking like a wounded animal. He made no effort to hide his anguish. His voice shook, eyes burning with tears, as he recounted finding the DNA test results in the archives. The Queen's heart broke. She embraced him tightly and whispered, "It doesn't matter. Andrew, you are my son, and nothing can change that. But what you've heard must stay hidden, because this isn't just about you or me. It's about the British monarchy." Andrew, slightly pacified, left the palace, but palace sources confirmed something had shifted inside him. From that day forward, he seemed to sink into a state of depression. He began skipping social events, requested absences from family gatherings, and carried the heavy weight of the royal secret and its lasting consequences. His world had quietly, painfully shifted, but irrevocably, just as it had been from the moment he discovered the truth. Citing health concerns, he rarely left the Lodge Palace and mainly kept to himself, almost as if every step, every word, and every silence was calculated to gain the elusive affection of his father, Prince Philip. He poured himself into his work, more than his siblings ever had, pushing himself further, harder, as if each achievement could prove something that had long been unspoken. Eventually, he followed in his father's exact footsteps by joining the Navy, a path of honour and discipline which made Prince Philip beam with pride. The father and son duo were slowly mending, finding rare common ground to connect, an unspoken understanding blooming in quiet moments and shared duties, signalling hope for the fractured bond. During the Falklands War in 1982, Prince Andrew undertook the daunting, nerve-shredding task of flying helicopter missions directly under enemy fire. Each mission was more dangerous than the last, complex beyond imagination, and brutally real. Death and disaster lurked around every corner, but his eyes burned with steely resolve and unshakable courage as he crossed the stormy seas to fight for his nation. He faced danger head-on, knowing that each flight was a test not only of skill, but of willpower, honor, and his very identity as a royal son.
The royal family has an intimate relationship.
This fearless decision won the admiration and pride of his father, Prince Philip, who had never seemed more proud of any of his children in his life. According to his closest aide, the war had given Prince Andrew a rare opportunity to prove himself, to earn a father's acknowledgement in a way words alone could never accomplish. For Andrew, those words of validation were like rain falling on parched earth, like drops of life itself nourishing a heart long hungry for approval. Sources say Andrew cherished those moments, holding them as though forged from the strongest metals, treasures that could withstand time, scandal, and secrecy. He sought them not only for affection, but for affirmation from a father whose standards were rigid, high, and almost impossible to meet. While this bond would later be tested during the Epstein scandal, it was a connection many believed could never be fully broken. For even in his deepest distress, Andrew's visible grief at his father's funeral proved just how deeply he cared and how much the bond still mattered. But despite this fragile closeness, the shadow of a paternity dispute remained, leaving lingering questions. Who is Prince William's real biological father? Rumours have long circulated that his father might have been one of the Queen's former companions during the early 1930s. Photographs of them together are almost non-existent, but palace insiders whisper that they were seen together, though rarely, moving quietly, with subtle glances that spoke volumes. Some observers noted eerie resemblances between him and Prince Andrew, the angles of the jawline, the strength of the shoulders, the unique way they carried themselves, but all remained loyal to the Queen, restraining themselves from speculation, even as curiosity clawed at their minds. Their restraint was not perfect, however. Rumours inevitably reached Prince Philip, fueling the initial seeds of doubt that would later grow into a storm. Now, many wonder what became of the man who may truly be Prince Andrew's father. We may never know the full story, but one fact remains certain. He vanished from public view long ago, never a permanent fixture, and yet, now, decades later, the drama stirred again, all because of the same secret DNA test, re-emerging from the shadows with renewed intensity and scandal. But how did this carefully guarded secret, buried deep within the royal archives, ever reach the public eye? The royal archives, especially the ultra-classified sections, are notoriously inaccessible. Only individuals personally appointed by the reigning sovereign hold the keys to these guarded files, a list that changes as the monarchs themselves change. So the question arises, how did information, clearly marked classified, slip past centuries of meticulous protocol and reach the world? It was an inside job, a calculated act of risk and courage. Someone from within orchestrated the leak with precision, careful not to betray the crown overtly, yet clever enough to leave breadcrumbs that only the right eyes could follow. It was a whistleblower, a brave individual who dared defy potential wrath for the sake of duty, honour, and a promise to someone they loved. That person was revealed to be the wife of the royal archivist, someone present when the secret test results were initially hidden away, whose loyalty and courage would shape history. Her husband, who had served the Queen faithfully for decades, returned home one evening in his early 90s, visibly disturbed and unsettled, a rare crack in his composed demeanour. Weeks passed, and eventually he appeared normal again. But his wife noticed the change and pressed him gently, sensing something monumental weighed upon him. He refused to speak, holding the secret close, and she, patient and wise, decided not to nag, letting him speak when ready. Weeks became months, months became years, and then tragedy struck. Her husband fell gravely ill, rushed to the hospital, and despite all care, failed to recover fully. Time was slipping away, the secret still heavy between them. Mrs. X, as she requested to be called, agonized over the decision she would have to make. Was the revelation of the DNA test her burden to bear? Should she keep it silent, burying it with her grief? Or should she act on her husband's unspoken trust? The answer became undeniable. If her husband had intended the secret to remain buried, he would have taken it with him to the grave. Instead, he entrusted her with it, a final duty to reveal the truth to the world. She could not, and would not, fail him. Carefully, methodically, she contacted media sources, dropped subtle hints regarding the location of the file within the royal archives, and through meticulous investigation and persistence, the truth began to surface, exploding into public consciousness and sending shockwaves across the globe. The world demanded answers. Why were the results hidden for so long? Who is the real father of Prince Andrew? What would become of Andrew's future, and what was his standing as a member of the royal family? Speculation and rumours swirled like wildfire. The royal family reacted swiftly, holding emergency meetings, enforcing strict media blackouts, and closing ranks with absolute precision, issuing no statements, interviews, or social media explanations, determined to protect their image and maintain control of the narrative. Press releases, interviews, or social media statements were absent. They chose to say nothing, to act as if silence could bury the uproar, hoping that the storm would fade with time. But the public was relentless. It became a battle of wills. Would the royal family outlast the cries for truth? Or would public scrutiny break their stoic silence? The palace had long been skilled at guarding secrets, but in the age of social media, every leak is amplified, every whisper magnified, every shadow visible. It is a period of immense strain for the royal family. "It's not about Andrew's feelings," said one royal courier. "The concern is the crown itself. If lineage is questioned, the foundation of authority wobbles. The monarchy's carefully constructed facade of order and hierarchy is built on secrecy, and every leak challenges its control. Public attention is merciless, like sharks sensing blood, and silence from the palace only fuels the frenzy. Despite centuries of experience, social media has undermined royal silence. Now, the public clamours for the DNA test results to be made public, for Prince Andrew's titles to be revoked, and for the line of succession to be rewritten, with Andrew's name potentially erased. The scale of the issue is unprecedented. How big a crisis can a single paternity test cause? Andrew's heritage defines everything: his birthright, his titles, his public role, the expectations placed upon him, and even the very limits of his personal freedom. It is never simply about privilege. It is about duty, hierarchy, and legacy. In the royal framework, the higher the birth, the heavier the crown, and the tighter the leash. Prince Andrew's once clear position as Duke of York, second son of Queen Elizabeth II, former naval officer and prominent royal figure, has now been quietly and systematically dismantled. There is no dramatic statement, no exit interview, yet the pattern of reduction is obvious to those paying attention. His security, privileges, and public presence have been eroded, his standard entitlement drastically reduced, leaving Andrew's status and authority quietly diminished within the palace walls. The royal protection once afforded him around the clock now appears sporadic, and even that is rumoured to be funded from private sources rather than the public purse. Invitations to state events, once extended automatically as a matter of protocol, have all but stopped, leaving a void where once he was prominently listed on royal websites. His patronages, which had been a testament to his standing within the monarchy, have disappeared quietly, without fanfare, and even photographs that once proudly showed him standing beside senior royals are now increasingly absent from updated royal displays, official commemorative collections, and archival publications. What is most telling is the profound silence surrounding his presence. There have been no press conferences, no defiant interviews, no public statements. Just an absence so stark, it seems to have become a presence of its own. The Duke of York is slowly becoming a memory, fading from public view, and it is evident that this is not accidental, but a calculated, intentional manoeuvre. It is strategic, precise, and deliberate. It is, in every royal sense of the word, an erasure. Behind the gilded doors of Buckingham Palace, this transformation is being orchestrated with the meticulous care of statecraft, measured and deliberate in its execution. Insiders whisper that King Charles himself has taken a definitive position on the matter, maintaining the composed dignity expected of a monarch while making clear to his advisers and household that the institution must protect itself at all costs. And yet, even this quiet unravelling has not occurred without tension. The relationship between Charles and Andrew has shifted from what once might have been fraternal warmth to a chilly, cautious distance within palace walls. Even the air seems to change when Andrew's name is spoken. Courtiers now tread carefully, often avoiding eye contact, speaking in hushed tones. The brothers, one now the reigning monarch, the other sidelined, exchange glances loaded with meaning. Cold, guarded, and layered with unspoken history, meetings that once flowed with familial warmth are now sterile, perfunctory, and noticeably short. The royal household has decided, and Andrew, once considered a pillar of the monarchy's second generation, now finds himself stripped of public roles, platforms, and any clear future within the institution, while still, by blood, technically, a member. At Windsor, it is increasingly evident that, by function and by favour, he is no longer treated as one of them. His legacy is now less about accomplishments, royal duties, and contributions, and more about controversies and secrets that forced this reckoning. And so, as the monarchy steps deeper into a modern era defined by accountability, image management, and strict control, the Duke of York fades further into the background. He becomes a cautionary tale, quietly written into the footnotes of royal history, a test of bonds between brothers whose childhood closeness is now irreversibly shadowed by scandal. The news of the DNA revelation had first shocked King Charles, then triggered panic, as memories of his childhood with Andrew, once full of shared games, laughter, and sibling camaraderie, flashed through his mind. But over time, as adolescence hit, their relationship evolved into one of subtle rivalry and unspoken tension. King Charles, heir to the throne, had never had the same freedoms as his brother. While Andrew played and eventually enlisted in the Navy, Charles stayed home, absorbing lessons, palace etiquette, and the burdens of future kingship. Years later, when the brothers met as adults, the contrast between them could not have been starker. King Charles faced the revelation not only as a brother navigating personal conflict, but as a reigning sovereign forced to address a secret that questioned the very foundation of his reign. He had just ascended to the throne, still grieving the loss of their mother, and now confronted a truth that challenged the hierarchy, loyalty, and public perception of the monarchy itself. In subsequent months, decisions had to be made by those acting in favour of the monarchy's stability, automatically aligning against Prince Andrew. Though Andrew had stepped down from active royal duties, the fallout extended far beyond mere titles. Medals bestowed by the army were stripped, and he was gradually cornered into isolation, financially, publicly, and ceremonially. The monarchy hoped that over time it would appear as though he had never existed. Calls for his complete removal from the British royal family tree continue, though no official action has yet been finalised. Prince Andrew, however, seems to have accepted his fate with stoic resignation, not complaining publicly, showing the quiet endurance expected of a royal whose life has been systematically dismantled. Even financial ties are being severed. He has been cut off from government funding, and surprisingly, the Queen left him no inheritance following her demise, a decision that has left palace observers speculating endlessly. No one knows why, and the late monarch never disclosed her reasoning to anyone, though some suggest it was a deliberate act to pacify her other children and leave a final measured stance on Andrew's position within the family. The issue of the DNA test results was almost never discussed publicly. Whenever it surfaced, the Queen promptly shut down the conversation. Her aides revealed that, at one point, the matter nearly reached the press, but she intervened decisively to ensure it did not. When asked why she chose silence over confrontation, her reply was simple: "He is my son now." Many argue she placed her maternal love above institutional priorities, and all eyes remain on King Charles to see if he will act with similar restraint. He must demonstrate that the crown comes first, above personal bonds and sentimentality. The life of a reigning monarch is one of hard choices, compromises, and unwavering attention to duty. King Charles cannot afford to appear indecisive or sentimental in matters affecting the line of succession or the image of the monarchy. He approaches this case not as Andrew's older brother, but as the King of Great Britain, fully aware that the sacrifices demanded of him are both personal and public. Andrew sits quietly on the sidelines as the family closes ranks, projecting unity and stoicism while his presence diminishes. He has been absent from family gatherings, and photographs reflecting his role have gradually disappeared. For someone born and raised in the royal household, this erasure has been both symbolic and deeply personal. A close friend confided that the process has been agonizing. Though their bond was never purely biological, the brothers shared a childhood of play, learning, and mutual dependence in an environment where the outside world was largely off-limits. Now, that bond has been reduced almost entirely to memory. What remains are two men estranged by the revelation of a DNA test result. Years of fatherly tutelage, discipline, and guidance provided by Prince Philip cannot be erased, but for many observers, it seems inconsequential in the face of institutional priorities. The public demands answers. They demand accountability, clarity, and the truth. This is not just about one prince. It is about what the institution of monarchy represents, how it maintains relevance, and whether bloodlines still matter in an era of scrutiny. The pressing question now revolves around Andrew, still officially recognised as the Duke of York. Should he retain the title granted by his mother, Queen Elizabeth II? Technically, yes. British law allows a reigning monarch to bestow titles regardless of DNA confirmation. However, King Charles retains discretion to revoke them if he chooses. Andrew has already lost military designations and the ability to represent the royal family officially, though he remains, in legal terms, a Prince of England. Despite mounting public and internal pressure, Charles has hesitated. Taking action would acknowledge the presence of someone not fully royal on the line of succession, inviting scrutiny, criticism, and unwanted attention. Silence has been chosen for now. The monarchy stands at a crossroads. Prioritize family loyalty or the trust and transparency demanded by the public. Andrew's future is uncertain. Titles, privileges, and personal connections are all in flux. The next step may determine whether he fades quietly into obscurity or is formally stripped of recognition and removed from public history. Until a formal announcement is made, we wait, alongside Andrew, for the decision that will define the remainder of his life. Will the monarchy act decisively, or will speculation continue to dominate public discourse? Trust in the institution wavers as questions multiply. The public, hungry for clarity, demands resolution. So, what do you think the royal family should do in this situation? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share this video, and leave your comment before you go. Click on the video displayed on your screen to stay updated on this unfolding saga.